How do you not let people get at you? How do you deal with people who are getting on your last nerve? All right, the holidays, when we're all supposed to be together with all kinds of people, my guess is we have these moments where it's like, ooh, how do I deal with? And what's interesting about that, what bothers us about someone else, like how they get under our skin, how they get on our nerves, may not bother someone else. And so how do we begin to think about getting through those moments in a better way? How do we get through those moments where, you know what, you're not going to bother me anymore. I'm not going to let you get at me. So there's a great quote by Jackie Kennedy. And she said, whenever I was upset by something in the papers, Jack always told me to be more tolerant, like a horse flicking away flies in the summer. That moment of being able to flick away like a fly, that our problem, whatever is getting at us, whatever is bothering us about someone else, to be able to say, you know what, no more. I'm going to let that go. But there are times, right, where that's difficult. And so what else might we gain? What's another step we could take? So Jesus gives us some wisdom in a story with Zacchaeus, which was a tax collector. And a tax collector in the first century, they were considered like parasites on society. Whether or not that's actually true, the perception was they are awful human beings. And some of them would steal from people. Like if the tax was 1%, they would take 5%. But here, something's different about Zacchaeus. It says in Luke 19:7-9, everyone who saw this grumbled, saying, he's gone to be the guest of a sinner. Zacchaeus stopped and said to the Lord, look, Lord, I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anyone, I repay them 4 times as much. Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this household because he too is a son of Abraham. People are hating on Zacchaeus and Jesus. Like they're like, ew, Zacchaeus is an awful human being, and so is Jesus now for hanging out with Zacchaeus. And it's interesting because Zacchaeus responds to this. He hears it. He hears the grumbling. He knows it. He's used to it. And so he responds to Jesus with something that I think is really important for us of, okay, it's not just about letting go, but Zacchaeus actually takes what they say and goes, wait a minute, do I need to do better? Is there something that I need to do differently? And so when he answers Jesus with, look, Lord, I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anyone, I repay them 4 times as much. That Zacchaeus is like, you know what? I try to make it right. I am leveling up. The actor Tyler Perry says this, you can never be upset with the people who forced you into your dream or up higher. Like, don't get upset with them for making you a better person because you said, wait a minute, I need to do a little self-reflection. I can do better at, I need to. Took that feedback and lived a better life, leveled up, lived into some dreams, lived even better than what you thought possible. And so for ourselves, when we're thinking about, okay, when I'm struggling to let go, is it because I need to do a little bit of self-reflection? Was there a better way to have handled, to have dealt with, to say, you know what, I don't need to let what they say get at. And then there's something else that's really important here that comes from Jesus and what Jesus says to Zacchaeus, because obviously it still bothers Zacchaeus, what people are saying, even though it's really not true. That's not who he is. That's just a perception that they blanket across and generalize every tax collector with. And so when Jesus says, today salvation has come to this household because he too is a son of Abraham. So Jesus is reminding Zacchaeus that he is a child of Abraham whom God chose to love and to care for. That Zacchaeus is part of a community. That maybe those around aren't making them feel a part of things. But Jesus is saying, no, you are part of a community that God absolutely loves. And for ourselves, of going, all right, I don't know anymore of how to deal with this situation. It's really kind of getting at, and to go, wait a minute, I should be more focused upon God's love, about how God cares for me instead of the negative, the nasty things, the things that annoy me, that get at me. And so that's a really helpful kind of 3-step process for us to take into and to challenge us when we are feeling somebody's getting on our last nerve. Is it something we can just need to flick away and let it go? Is it something that, wait a minute, I need to do a little bit of self-reflection on, do I need to level up my game? Do I need to act a little bit differently? Doesn't mean it'll always suffice them. And then to be rooted with a foundation that God loves us no matter what. That God's love is forever surrounding us. And that needs to be our focus. So when somebody's on our last nerve, we may just need to give it over in prayer to God. We may just need to be like, you know what, God, I need you to take this, because God's love, that's part of God's love, is taking those burdens, those aggravations, those things that get at us, and go, wait a minute, I can give them over. And so how will you deal now, today, tomorrow, this week, through the holidays with those who maybe kind of get at you or are on your last nerve? Have a good one.